Well, Shabbat Shalom. I just want to welcome everyone to the Sabbath Day conference call. This is Barbara, and I'm serving as your host today. And today is the 8th day of the 11th month. It's the first Sabbath. And we just want to welcome all our family and friends of Yah that are here, if you're here on the phone or the internet, or maybe you are listening to the recording. We just want to welcome you. And I want to invite everyone to go to the website of lunarsabbathday.com for more information about the Creator's calendar. There's a lot of videos, articles, everything there to help you study it out more for yourself. It's all based on Scripture. And also you can go to the events page and scroll down to the bottom and find out the dates that we meet for Sabbath and new moons. And the phone numbers are there and the link to connect with us. And I just want to welcome everyone that's here. And for those of you that are here, I didn't get all my emails sent out like I thought I did. Some of them were in the draft, but I sent some this morning. But anyways, thankful for everyone that is here. And this dialogue is questions and answers about the Lunar Sabbath, and it's questions from a newcomer. And a lot of times we have many newcomers here on the call or maybe on the website or on the Facebook site, and they have a lot of questions. Maybe they're shy and don't want to ask them on the call or especially on the recording link. So I found a whole bunch of these questions in the dialogue, and I thought I would go ahead and put it on a Word document so that we could kind of go over it. But I'll be the newcomer, and I'll read the newcomer's question or objection. And Brother Martin said he would help with the reading of the answers as long as his voice holds out. So I thank you, Brother Martin. And then we'll pause a little bit after each question because maybe you have a better answer. Because there's many of you on the line here on the internet that have been keeping the Lunar Sabbath for many years. Some of you are new too, and maybe you want to add to the question. But this person, I'm not going to say man or woman. I'm trying not to identify any people here. But I thought it was just a good example of all these questions that can be hammered at us, and are we prepared with answers? So now we don't always agree with everything, all the answers on here, or when we read things on a conference call, it doesn't mean we agree with everything. It's a teaching tool or a learning time, and you have to kind of sort out. I don't actually agree with all the answers, but I just wanted to put out the answers as people wrote them. So anyways, we'll start out with this one. I'm the newcomer. So the newcomer says, TM sent me an email saying that it's today and tomorrow, talking about new moon. And it's so confusing. I'm very confused. He said there are 2 new moon days today and tomorrow. But I only got the email yesterday, so I couldn't prepare. I thought it was a work day tomorrow, but he said it isn't. I don't know who's right, and I can't see the moon because of the chemtrails. Thanks. Then the next thing this person said is, but this means we don't get a Sabbath for 9 days this week. How can that be right? Then the next objection or question is, so do I go out when it is dark today and look for a crescent? And if I don't see one, could it mean the chemtrails are in the way, or does it mean there's a 2-day new moon or one? So many questions being hammered at this website. So here's our first answer from a Lunar Sabbath keeper.
The Sabbath was on the 25th, and the new moon day is, according to my calendar, this is the time when I question, am I doing the right? Because the time when I question, am I doing this right? Because what was told, what was today, it wasn't a Sabbath, and it wasn't day one confusion. I'm going to read that again. That was kind of confusing.
I'm sorry if it's a little choppy. I copied this dialogue over, but basically this person is saying the new moon day is blank according to their calendar. And, okay, we'll just stop in a minute, but we'll just go forward a little. This person was trying to say that PM was right. So the newcomer says, someone said some months have 2 new moon days, the 30-day month. That's all I know. What calendar are you on? Please and thanks.
And then answer. If you go to lunarsabbathday.com, there is a calendar there that is very helpful. You will get a different answer on this. It is likely that I will be keeping new moon for 2 days this time for me. New moon always occurs the day after Sabbath, when the moon will be sighted. It is the determining factor in whether I keep it for 1 or 2 days. When I read 1 Samuel 20, I see new moon as being kept for 2 days. 1 Samuel 20:27. It come about the next day, the second day of the new moon, second day of the moon, that David's place was empty. So Saul said to Jonathan his son, why has the son of Jesse not come to the meal, either yesterday or today? I think it's good to read all of 1 Samuel 20 to get the whole picture, though these are my thoughts and how I keep it. But you will always have to research Scripture and come to your own understanding.
Okay. So these questions so far were about, do we have a 1 or 2 day new moon this month? That's the current question. And maybe somebody has a comment. I mean, us in the Lunar Sabbath movement, sometimes we see new moon day a little bit differently. I'm seeing as last week that we had a 1 day new moon, but many of you that are listening or maybe watching the YouTube had a 2 day new moon. So what do you say to this newcomer that says it's so confusing? I don't know. Somebody sent me a letter saying it's a 2 day. Then I get the other information that it's a 1 day. So what would you say to this newcomer?
You're asking us?
Yes, I'm asking, yes, everybody here in the fellowship call today, I'm asking you because, yeah, you didn't know whether I was reading or not. Sorry, go ahead, Susan. What would you say to this person?
So I would say to the person, it is not safe to depend on the arm of man or woman according to Scripture. We must look to the moon itself as best we can and check with others to find out what is the quiet language of the calendar in the sky. And it takes a while to get used to that. So pick something and go with it until you have a chance to watch the moon for a while, and it will become clear to you. But none of us has all the answers. We are only fallible human beings like you. So don't depend on any one of us. Oh, that person has to know, or that person has to know, or I'm going to do just like them. Look to the moon yourself and learn how to judge it. But it's obvious because even in Israel, the months were 30 days. The weeks are 7 days. There are normally 4 weeks in a month. 7 times 4 is like 28, not 30. So sometimes it was often a 2-day new moon back then because we've had, we say we have a dent in our clock. There were some things happen back in the 700s probably that changed that. So sometimes we have 1 day, sometimes we have a 2 day, and it just needs to be looking at the moon to figure out what it is. Okay, so bless you.
Okay, thank you, Susan. That was a big help. Encouraging the newcomer to start learning for themselves, choose something and stick with it till they've learned and practiced more. And we respect one another, even if we do see New Moon Day a little bit different. It might make the Sabbath a little bit different for some of us in this month. So the newcomer says, so I'm allowed to take care of pets on New Moon Day and fill water distillers or do dishwashing. That's kind of like a question. Am I allowed?
A righteous man or woman regards the life of his animal, but the tender mercies of the wicked are only cruelty. Proverbs 12:10. New moon only prohibits labor for profit from my study. No commerce or baking or new moon on new moon by my estimation. I will work in the garden on new moon. It is not a Sabbath or a complete rest, but a feast. I believe the same as far as new moon goes. I believe Scripture says that we are prohibited to buy, sell, work for profit. But it doesn't say it is a day of complete rest like the Sabbath. I will cook and do dishes, etc. on new moon.
Yes. Thank you, Martin. And I'll explain letters A is one person's answer, letter B is another person's. And these were all questions and answers that were out there on the internet, and I just kind of copied them over. They might be a little choppy or rough. And so the newcomer says, well, do you cook on Sabbath? And then someone, instead of giving answer, posted this chart about the type of days. There's a working day, and then there's a Sabbath, and then there's new moon days. There's 3 types of days from Ezekiel 46:1. So the question is, this person, that's all they put for their answer was about the 3 types of days. But the newcomer's question was, do you cook? And Brother Martin, if your voice is hurting you, I can ask someone else to read a couple.
I'll keep reading until somebody volunteers. Answer A. I was prepared. I always cook the day before on prep day. So all I have to do is warm up food on the Sabbath. This is just my personal conviction, though, as there's no detailed description as to what can and cannot be done on the Sabbath. Answer B. Yes. Because when we can no longer buy and sell, we won't be able to have a computer to find out when they can see the new moon. I don't know how far behind they are from where I am in, but how can their day start when mine does away? Anyway.
Yeah, that's a little bit tough because that response was actually about when is New Moon Day. So you'll just kind of have to follow the flow of it. I'm afraid it's a little choppy, but this person was answering her other question. It wasn't about cooking or her or his. And I want to keep this all anonymous. So the newcomer said, I'm so confused. I just went outside to look for the moon, and it's pouring with rain. I can't see any moon, and we get bombarded with chemtrails here. It's been very foggy today and the other day. If I could see a sliver, can't see anything because of chemtrails, would that mean it isn't a new moon day as well as tomorrow? Please and thanks. And then the newcomer says, there's also terrible light pollution here. Far too many orange street lights, which they seem to be replacing with some dazzling, awful white LED lights. How are we supposed to look for the new moon with all the chemtrails, rain, and light pollution? Please and thanks.
A. This walk can be lonely and hard. We are all so spread out, it seems. Sometimes we are unable to personally sight the moon here due to cloud over. So in that case, there are sights that most physical sightings in different regions. May you find strength in the Father. Blessings. And answer B. Y'all ain't alone, at least here in Texas. There are a lot of different styles of what society calls crazy, so I fit, even when I explain the new moon Sabbath. Oh yes, I get some religious and mainstreamers try in to correct me. I just move on.
Okay, so the newcomer says, well, any comments so far? I think this is going to the subject of manna. Any comments about New Moon Day and trying to spot when the sliver is to know when the work week begins, and all the frustrations of the light pollution that we have now in the skies? If you live in the city, especially, and all the fog and all the chemtrails where the evil one, Satan, is trying to cover up our calendar in the heavens. Any comments so far or questions?
This is Ellie. I was going to say, you know, with what you're reading, it makes perfect sense to me because as time goes on, we have very little sun anymore. We got one day of sun, maybe two, and then it's cloudy or chemtrails or it's foggy or a storm's coming. So it's very hard. I think, you know, when it gets towards the end of time, we're going to have to do like they did a long time ago. Start marking everything down and say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, this must be the Sabbath. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then when you get to the fourth one, then you're going to have to say, okay, maybe this is New Moon Day the next day, and then start all over again. You know, we'll have to do like they did in the caveman days because we won't be able to see. You know, the skies are going to keep, how can I say, the skies are going to keep getting more chemtrails, more clouds. I mean, sometimes I look at the satellite images. It shouldn't indicate that there should be no clouds out there, but yet there's clouds. You can't see anything. It's cloudy. So
right.
That's all because of chemtrails, you know. So it's going to be more difficult, I believe, as time goes on for anybody to try and figure out. And if we lose our internet, if we lose things, if we know where we were when that happened, then we're going to have to start counting and use our head, you know, and hopefully Yahuwah will be able to understand, and he will, that, you know, we're doing the best that we can with what we've got.
Yeah, thanks, Ellie, because, well, and hopefully we'd be able to see the quarter moon phase straight overhead, and that's twice a month. That might help straighten us out, but not if it's covered with chemtrails and clouds and who knows the storms the world has yet ahead of us. So counting might be what we'll have to do. I remember when I was a little girl asking about Noah's Ark. How did they know when Sabbath was? Because of Noah's Ark, I didn't figure they were seeing any moon. I didn't think about the moon, but I just figured they had a Gregorian calendar in there. But we know that's not true because that didn't come about till 1582. But anyways, the months then were always 30-day months. So they would just count the 30 and they would know the first day of the beginning month is New Moon Day and day 8 would be Sabbath. So maybe this will come a time when we won't be able to look up, that we will have to keep track. And I do believe the Father will put us back on that perfect calendar, I hope, soon. And we know, especially in the new earth. So I'm looking forward to that.
I know there's a scripture that talks about, I think the sun will be darkened or the moon will not shed its light or something.
Yes, that's true. Thank you, Martin. Any other comments so far or questions?
This is Susan, and I agree. Yeah, we're going to have to look. That's one of the reasons why it's better to live in the country. It's a little easier. But even there, it's not always true, because not always easy because of the chemtrails and things. But I think you're right. Even when I was in South Korea, in a city with skyscrapers all around, I could see the moon at least once a month. And if we do that, we can get our bearings again and check to see if our counting is correct.
Right.
And that's a very good thing. And yes, it would be easier. But hopefully if we can do that, we can keep kind of on key. And I do believe the Father understands these things. And he's not going to condemn us because we're not sure whether it's a 1 day or 2 day new moon, because we're not sure. We can't see any signs of this or that or the other, and we couldn't. Maybe we saw the full moon, but it's just difficult.
Okay, thank you, Susan. So, and this is a dialogue. Like I said, it was on the internet, and I just picked out the questions and the answers that different people gave that are keeping the Lunar Sabbath. And so here's the newcomer's next question. As a gentleman in a Lunar Sabbath group just pointed out, where does it say that they were to gather 3 or 4 days' worth of manna? Where does it say that we are not to cook on the new moon day or to fast on the new moon day? Please, I am very confused. Thanks.
Answer A. Have you considered this scripture? Colossians 2:16. So let no one judge you in food or in drink, or regarding a festival or a new moon or Sabbath.
And this person posted a chart showing Colossians 2:16 and the Strong's numbers for it. And no man therefore judge you in meat, drink, or respect of a holy day, or the new moon of the Sabbath, or of the Sabbath. So he posted a chart there for the newcomer to look at. And this person B says it's supposed to be translated moon. So that is all together there. And now here's another answer about cooking.
C. Not cooking on the Sabbath or new moon was part of the law that was against us, that was nailed to the cross. There is nothing wrong with cooking on the Sabbath or new moon unless that is your profession, daily paying job. But cooking for your personal use is not sinful. The Sabbath was made for man. The Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. Nowhere in Scripture does it say that cooking on the new moon also, or no cooking on the new moon. Also, nothing given in Torah has been taken away other than the sacrifices for now. Answer E. Wow. How do you know that the law was against you? Are you God's enemy? Answer F. It doesn't say that. There is never more than 30 days in a month, period, so 3 to 4 days is an exaggeration. 1 new moon day, 8, 15, 22nd, and 29th, all weekly Sabbaths. The month will either have new moon the next day from the last Sabbath or the day after. Never 4 days. I have been keeping this calendar as given by our Creator for 20 years.
So there's an answer from someone that's been faithful to the Father's calendar for 20 years. And so, you might not agree, or I might not agree with all these answers, but these are other Lunar Sabbath keepers answering some of the objections and questions that a newcomer might have. Any comments about the manna? That's what was brought up, which was this person wanted to know about the manna.
I wonder if the question on the manna was kind of like, he gave it for 6 days and then just held it back for 1. And how does the new moon fit into that possibly? I'm not sure on the question.
Right, yeah, 3 or 4 days, I think the person is saying, without manna, because manna came on the 6 days and then not on the Sabbath. And if there was 3 days of new moon, 2 days of new moon, and a Sabbath, that's 3 days without manna. But we don't know those answers. But I think there's a little bit more about the manna somebody else jumped in here with, but does anybody else have a comment for this newcomer? Okay, well, the newcomer says, so, and sometimes the newcomer doesn't wait for all the answers. The newcomer here just keeps asking without, sometimes the answers are out of order or a little bit, a few minutes after the question. So, newcomer says, so if month has 30 days, what is the other extra day called? Then this person says, when I told my teenager yesterday what I found out about the lunar calendar, he was angry and said, but it says work 6 days and then Sabbath. But this is also a new moon day and sometimes an extra 30th day. That doesn't fit with the Bible. Can you explain? Okay, so this person told their teenager there's the 2 new moon days, but the objection the teenager gave was what the Bible says 6 days of work, then Sabbath. So here's a couple more answers.
It is simply another work day before the new moon. Many, myself included, believe that prior to the flood, there were 29 days every month. The moon cycle was 29.53 days long, so you can fairly accurately predict when it will be the 29th and when 30th. I do not predict we wait until new moon is sighted. We both work full-time jobs, too, and have been keeping Yahweh Sabbaths all this time. Answer H. The extra day is just called a space and time or dark moon day. In 1 Samuel, David and Jonathan called it the first day of the new moon, the second day of the new moon, and so forth. That's 1 Samuel 20:18-29.
Okay, and I just want to add that we know from Genesis 7:11 with Noah in the time of the flood, there was 30 days, months, because the 150 days divided by 30 is exactly 5 months. So I don't agree with all these answers, but I just wanted to put them out there that this is what a newcomer might be hearing, all these things that are so confusing. One person says this and another person says that. So it can be kind of confusing for sure. And like Susan says, you have to study for yourself and find out and study and learn and study and read and glean for yourself. So the newcomer says, do you mean it goes new moon, non-work day, 6 days of work, then a Sabbath, 6 days of work, then a Sabbath, 6 days of work, then a Sabbath, neither 1 day work or new moon day next? I don't know, a little confusing, but if so, why does it say 6 days of work and a Sabbath instead of 6 days and 1 or 2 days for a new moon? So why does it say work 6 days and Sabbath? I'll just rephrase that. And then why doesn't it say you're going to have 2 days off in the middle of the month there?
And then I think it said up there that the question there, I thought it said month, not moon. But anyway, answer I. One can always look for a reason not to keep our Creator's instructions. We may not have all the answers absolutely correct, and the world may be in a fallen state, but we do our best to study and show ourselves approved. And the biggest deception that Satan has perpetuated in the calendar, and all the counterfeit days.
Okay, so the newcomer says, I'm not looking for a reason not to keep them. I just want to be sure this is the right calendar to use and to keep them.
A. Only the weekly Sabbath you are prohibited to cook, and also on the Feast of Atonement.
So how does a man in the wilderness, here we're back to the manna subject again, so how does a man in the wilderness for 6 days fit in with the 29 or 30-day month? And why does it mention gathering enough for 3 or 4 days? Thanks. And here are some answers.
A. Super good question. Search and we shall find. Clue. On preparation day, days 7, 14, 21, and 28, there were to gather double the amount for that day. And the following day, Exodus 16, 16, 23 through 26. The answer is given by the information supplied in Exodus 16. There was never any need to gather for 3 or 4 days. Exodus 16, 16, and 26. They didn't have to gather enough manna for new moon, as it is not a day of complete rest. The only days of complete rest scriptures are the weekly Sabbath day and the Day of Atonement. The question is, answer C, the question is based on the assumption that there is 7-day uninterruptible, continuously weekly cycles which never exist in reality except on a man-made calendar. This is sometimes about the wrong assumption about the Exodus 16 account. A lot of people read Exodus 16 according to their mindset. They just read what they want to read and let the Bible follow what they want to believe. If you read Exodus 16, there is no commandment that there should not be a continuous 6-day count. Then the seventh day count. Then the 7th day. There is not even a hint about that 6-day continuous pattern. Continuing the 8th day as Sabbath as well as the 22nd and 29th is not even in the chapter. There is something that needs a different chapter. There is something that needs a different chapters and verses in the Bible. That is not my topic here. In fact, that is exactly the reason why there are full moonists and once a month lunar Sabbatarians out there. I am not promoting them, and I am not one of them. That particular 7th day of Exodus 16 occurred only once in that chapter. While I am not saying that it shouldn't be once only, my point is that Exodus 16 did not elaborate those issues. So how come people ask how the lunar Sabbath fits to the 6-day manna question? Answer D. It is never 3 or 4 days. It may be one extra day besides Shabbat at end of month.
Okay, so the one person gave a lengthy answer saying the manna story doesn't necessarily point out the 22nd and 29th as Sabbath, but I believe it does because it says the 16th would have been the first day of manna, which would have been your first day of the week, and that leaves Sabbath as the 22nd. So
right.
Therefore, yeah, that what you read there when you read Exodus 2, Brother Martin?
Read what?
That it's the manna story shows Sabbath as 22 and 29. And 15th, actually.
Right. Let's see. Continuing the 8th day as Sabbath as well as the 22nd, 29th. It is not even in the chapter. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, this person said it's not proving anything, but it does prove to me, the Mana story does prove Sabbaths are 8, 15, 22, and 29. Anybody have any comments about that, about the Mana story showing the first day of Mana was on the 16th, and that means for the Sabbath following that was going to be the 22nd. Any comments? Or questions?
I'm not sure, but I think exposing the enemy site has something on the Mana deal.
Okay, yes, I think it does too. There are a lot of good websites out there to search. And sometimes people just want to ask questions. They don't want to go and do their own searching. They just want to hammer a bunch of questions and not go read an article or go read their scriptures. They kind of want people to just give them answers. But you can't depend on flesh. You can't depend on man for your answers.
Right. I had to, many times, I have questions, I get so many different answers that, I had to cry out and say, Lord, help me, and then it reminds me that we have to, before we can, settle on something, we have to be convinced in our own mind, and sometimes to do that, you have to study several different answers to a certain topic, I guess.
Right. Maybe we'll skip forward. Oh, yeah, this is the next question. The newcomer says, is there anywhere in the Bible that confirms there is sometimes a 13th month? Here's 3 answers.
Whoops, I had it on mute. I'm sorry. A, the location and degrees of the sun and moon play a role in that. B, yes. C, do you mean 13 moon months? There is 13 moons in a modern day 12-month calendar. Modern 12-month calendar. The natives understood this well and would use a turtle shell as a calendar.
So this person posted a picture of this Indian turtle shell calendar, which is kind of interesting. It's got the turtle shell calendar has got 13 months. There's the 1, 2, 3. I hope you can see it on the screen or look at it later on the YouTube. This is a interesting picture I've never really seen before. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. So sometimes there was 13. And then the 28 days for the weeks, but then you'd have your 2 days for your new moon. So that was interesting, too, that person posted that to the newcomer.
And D.
Yeah.
And D, please delete if links are not permitted. This is an article I have put together on the 13th month. Then there's a link there. E, believe it or not, the Bible said it or not. Still, you have no choice because it is reality. It is like you do not want to breathe, but you have to.
Okay, well, anybody have any answers or questions for this person that's asking now about 13 months? And for a newcomer, all these questions are really pretty advanced for newcomers. I didn't know about 13 months for quite a while, I don't believe, but this is a newcomer asking about, what about this 13th month plan? Do any of you have any comments?
This is Susan. I don't know where to find it in the Bible about the 13 months, but I do know that even on this Gregorian calendar that everybody uses, we have 1, 2, 3 hiccup, leap year, 1, 2, 3. So we have a little difference too to even out the count. Just that they did it an extra year, an extra month every few years would be about the same thing. We just do it a little differently in the Gregorian, and I don't keep the Gregorian much for these festivals at all. So, bless you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Susan. So this person that answered on D, he put together an article about the 13th month on his website, and it's here for those that can see it on the screen. But we do know in the book of Ezekiel, it talks about a 13th month. And if we didn't add the 13th month every 2 or 3 years, our seasons would be so far off. We'd be having Passover in the winter or in the fall. Everything would get moved back. So every 2 or 3 years, we have to add a month because of the dent in our calendar now. So there's going to be a little bit more about that. The newcomer says, why are leap years mentioned here? I thought that it was a pagan practice. And this person's talking about World's Last Chance video, Saturday Swindle, Part 2. Why did they talk about leap years? So this person's asking about a video about Saturday Swindle from World's Last Chance.
A, answer. The pagan practice is to make some months 28, 29, 30, or 31 days long is only possible by adding a leap day every 4 years. In Noah's time, it took the moon 30 days to complete its circuit. Today, it's 29.5 days. Hence, an extra month apparently every 3 years. The Creator alone can change the times, Daniel 2, 20, and 20, or 20 and 21, because He alone controls the lights in the sky.
Okay, well, how do you know it took 30 days in Noah's time? That's what the newcomer asked. And then also, please, can some people watch this World's Last Chance video for me and tell me why they are wrong? So this person wants someone to go watch the video. And this is a video from 119 Ministries. And I'll go ahead and let one person answer on the dialogue here.
A, why do you ask for mankind the commands of Yah? They will only tell of their own opinions and interpretations, and then triple question mark. Study the law and ask Abba for guidance in the understanding of His Word.
Okay, so this 119 Ministries is a good ministries, but I want to let you know that we did a rebuttal addressing the 119 objection to the Lunar Sabbath, and it was rebuttal to EliYah, because when 119 wrote their rebuttal for the Lunar Sabbath, they copied exactly EliYah's objections and all his document. Basically, they just repeated it. So this basically is a rebuttal to 119 Ministries. So this is a YouTube that we did, and it's called A Rebuttal Proof of the Lunar Sabbath. And there's 5 parts to that, and it's also on our website. So that will address 119 Ministries in a roundabout way, because Troy's rebuttal to 119 Ministries is the exact as to EliYah. They're identical rebuttals. So the newcomer says, thanks. Can you watch the end of it too, about the last 20 minutes where he mentions scriptures, scriptures about the Lunar Sabbath being uncovered? And have you seen this video? All these videos are out there. That's so confusing to new people. So the newcomer says, I can't take in how it says to work 6 days and rest in the Sabbath at 29 and 30th of the lunar month. Doesn't fit with this. Working 8 or 8 days in a row. How do you explain this? So after watching the 119 Ministry video, there's a lot of questions for this person.
Answer B. The 30th day is open. It is not a Sabbath day or a new moon day. 2 Kings 4:23.
Well, newcomer says open means just a space and time between the Sabbath and new moon. But it's still a day, though. It's so confusing.
Answer C. Kind of like when the silence is too loud, question mark. The 30th is like how through most of human history, people would wake up around midnight, putter around for an hour or two, then go back to sleep until morning. 119, answer E. 119 does not say what a month is by Scripture. They like to leave that out. Answer F. I like to follow World's Last Chance for guidance to the new moon. Answer G. Personally, I compare the 30th day or the so-called translation day, but I personally prefer the word Moed to the 13th month or the intercalendary month. It is a filler to intercalculate or make up or compensate in order to bring order in the lunar cycle because it is not exact. In parentheses, sorry, I am out of English, but I meant something more. It happens. Also, I compare the first day, Rosh Chodesh, new moon day, to the year of Jubilees. There are continuous counting of 7 years. Every 7th year is a sabbatical year, but the 50th year is the year of Jubilee. The continuous 7-year cycle resets and starts another cycle. The same goes with the Lunar Sabbath. I don't personally call it as such. The lunar months reset at new moon day. First day after that we count continual cycles of 7 days. The 7th day being Shabbat, 8th, 15th, 22nd, and 29th days of the lunar month. The old month ends at new moon, and so the month resets and the count resets. If the Moed conjunction is longer than an extra day, the 30th is added to compensate or intercalculate. Hope this helps. Shalom. P.S. No debates intended. Hebrew word meaning birth that also genetically or georetically refers to the time at which the new moon is born.
Yeah, so I looked that word up, Moed. I put this in actually, Moed, which this person refers to up here. About, personally, I compare the 30th day or so-called translation day, but I personally refer the word Moed to the 13th month, prefers that. So Moed in Hebrew is a word meaning birth that also generically refers to the time which the new moon is born. Okay, this guy had a big long paragraph there, and you guys can go back and study it further, but here's what H had to say.
H, creationcalendar.com, and then Joan 119 Ministry, PDF Hall of Shame. I, the biblical definition of week is frame to the new moon or first day of the month. Always. We must look for the 4 Shabbats inside of that frame, not outside of it. Biblical weeks are not cynical as they are in the pagan solar gregorian calendar.
That's probably cyclical, like going around forever, in a cycle or circle.
Circle, yeah. First week need to wait for the new moon to be shown. Everything's in capital letters here, so
I know.
Today, 2 is the, where am I at now? 2 is the beginning of the first day. Biblical lunar solar calendar cannot be explained by using principles or definitions of the Gregorian calendar. No, it cannot be done. That calendar is solar and its weeks never stops. Even so, such kind of questions about day 30 as part of an 8-day week, it is such a mistake of understanding how this lunar month works. Day 30 and day 1 are counting for the final result of the 365 day of a year day 30 and day 1 are not part of any week because does not fit in any of them that are framed. I'm sorry, I couldn't hardly.
Yeah. That was hard to read for everybody that's just on the phone. It was all capital letters, but it was this first person's response to the 30-day month. And so they say, you can't go outside and look at the Gregorian calendar for those kind of answers. So, and also here this person had said go to the site, which is Troy's Hall of Shame, to study about 119 ministries and see the rebuttal there. Which, like I said, we did a rebuttal on that called EliYah, the rebuttal. So I think we'll stop right there. And is there any questions or comments about what was the question? We get so many answers in here, I kind of forget the question. What about that space between Sabbath and new moons? Is that a work day? And it was just all these questions that a newcomer would have.
Sometimes I think what puzzles them is that day in between there, they want to make it part of a weekly count somewhere, and that throws them off. They want to make it look like a Gregorian calendar. They want to make it part of that 7-day weekly count.
Right. Yes, that's right. Let's see I don't know if I put a calendar up here. Let's see. Well, I've got this calendar up here, but let me go and get a Gregorian calendar. I've got one. I want to go get Father's calendar and show it to you. For those that maybe you haven't seen one before, you have the 30th day of the month is a transition day, and we know that Israel always has 30-day months. And then New Moon Day is day 1. And then you have 6 working days, a Sabbath, which is day 8, 6 working days, a Sabbath, 6 working days, a Sabbath, 6 working days, a Sabbath. Then your transition day is part of the old month and part of a new month. And then New Moon Day is day 1. Any comments, anybody, or questions? This has kind of been a choppy dialogue because it was all copied on the internet and things were interjected maybe out of order. But there is a lot of questions for newcomers, and I don't want to be pointing at anybody or trying to belittle anybody. If you have this question, that means other people have the question. So we welcome questions and objections.
And this is Susan. It's clear that the work days are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the Sabbath is the 7th. But when you do that, it doesn't, I don't see how you can make another work day out of a transition day. It seems to me that biblically it's treated as kind of similar to a new moon day, because they didn't work on that. And like as we talked, David and Jonathan, why is he not at the feast the second new moon day? So I think that that's what I've always done, is treat it as it's not a Sabbath, it's not a work day, and the only other type of day you have is a new moon day. So that made sense to me, rather than try to make it into a work day or try to make it into a Sabbath.
Okay, thank you, Susan. Yes, we have to figure out for ourselves how we're going to treat that day, and what we do on New Moon Day, what we do on Transition Day. We know it's commanded on Sabbath not to work, but we know Amos 8:5 says, when will New Moon be over so that we can buy or sell? So it wasn't expected to buy or sell on New Moon Day. So that transition day, that's a question, and everybody has to study it out for themselves. Any more comments, anybody? Well, I think we'll turn the recording off, and if you found yourself in any of these comments that were posted on the internet or questions, please know that we were using this as a learning tool. We want to hear the objections, and we want to hear answers. And I recommend everybody go and study for themselves, and I appreciate everybody that was here and all the comments. And I ask everyone that's here to stick around, and we'll have discussion when the recording's off. And thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Brother Martin, for reading when I know you were having a throat problem. And we'll be back 1 week from today. So, shalom, shalom, Shabbat shalom.